If you open this video, something inside you already knows that the old version of yourself is ready to die. Not physically, but energetically. And that knowing, that's not coming from your mind. It's coming from your quantum field, calling you toward your highest timeline. Right now, as you're watching this, there's an invisible force field around you that's keeping you trapped in the same patterns, the same thoughts, the same version of yourself that you've been carrying for years. And here's what most people don't understand about quantum physics and consciousness. This field isn't just in your mind. It's literally encoded in the fabric of your reality at a subatomic level. Have you ever noticed how the harder you try to change, the more you seem to stay exactly the same? Have you ever wondered why some people can completely transform their lives in what seems like an instant, while others struggle for decades with the same issues, the same relationships, the same financial situations? The answer lies in something that quantum physicists call observer collapse, but what the ancient mystics knew as the death of the false self. But here's where it gets mysterious. There's a specific moment, and I'm talking about a measurable scientific moment, where your consciousness literally shifts dimensions, where the old you, with all its limitations and patterns, begins to dissolve at the quantum level. And in that dissolution, something extraordinary happens. The universe itself starts to reorganize around the new you that's emerging. Most people never experience this shift because they're doing exactly the opposite of what quantum mechanics tells us is necessary for transformation. They're trying to add new habits to the old self. They're trying to improve the old identity. They're trying to upgrade the old programs. But what if I told you that this approach is like trying to tune a radio to a new station while keeping the old frequency playing at the same time? The mystics of Tibet have a phrase: "You cannot pour new wine into old wineskins." Modern neuroscience has proven this ancient wisdom. Dr. Joe Dispenza's research at the HeartMath Institute shows that when we truly let go of our old identity, our brain literally rewires itself in real time. The neural pathways that kept us locked in old patterns begin to dissolve, and new networks form that align with our highest potential. But here's what they don't tell you in the self-help books. This quantum shift doesn't happen gradually. It doesn't happen through willpower or positive thinking. It happens in a moment of complete surrender, what quantum physicists call quantum decoherence, where the old you literally stops existing as a probability in the quantum field. Are you one of the rare souls who's ready to experience this? Because what I'm about to share with you in the next few minutes will challenge everything you think you know about change, about identity, and about the very nature of reality itself. You're about to discover why letting go isn't just a spiritual concept. It's a quantum necessity for accessing higher dimensions of existence. The question is, are you ready to stop trying to fix the old you and start allowing the real you to emerge from the quantum field of infinite possibility? To understand why letting go is the only path to quantum transformation, we need to journey into the deepest mysteries of consciousness itself. Every morning when you wake up, you're not just opening your eyes, you're collapsing infinite possibilities into a single reality. You're choosing, at a subconscious level, which version of yourself will exist in this dimension today. But here's what's happening that most people never realize. Every time you choose to be the same person you were yesterday, every time you react from the same emotional patterns, every time you make decisions from the same limited beliefs, you're not just maintaining the status quo, you're actively creating what quantum physicists call a probability wave collapse that locks you deeper into that particular timeline. Think about it this way. In the quantum field, all possibilities exist simultaneously. The version of you that's confident, abundant, and living your highest purpose exists right now in what scientists call a superposition state. But so does the version of you that's stuck, fearful, and repeating the same patterns. The act of observation, your consciousness choosing which reality to experience, is what makes one possibility real and causes the others to fade into the background. This is where ancient wisdom and cutting-edge science converge in the most beautiful way. The Vedic texts speak of Maya, the illusion of the separate self. Buddhist teachings talk about anatta, the non-existence of a fixed identity. What these traditions understood thousands of years ago, quantum mechanics is now proving in laboratories around the world. Your identity, the person you think you are, is not a fixed thing. It's a collection of repeated thoughts, emotions, and behaviors that have created what neuroscientists call neural superhighways. These are the grooves in your brain that make certain patterns automatic, unconscious, effortless. They're so ingrained that they feel like you. But here's the revelation that changes everything. These neural superhighways, these patterns that feel so permanent and unchangeable, they only exist because you keep choosing them. They only have power because you keep energizing them with your attention, your emotion, your identity. The moment, and I mean the precise moment, that you stop identifying with these patterns, something miraculous happens at the quantum level. The wave function that was holding that version of reality in place begins to decohere. The old you literally starts to dissolve, not as a destruction, but as a liberation. This is why every spiritual tradition talks about death and rebirth. This is why the hero's journey always involves a moment of complete surrender, a descent into the unknown. It's not metaphorical, it's quantum mechanical. The old self must die for the new self to emerge from the field of infinite potential. But here's where most people get it wrong. They think letting go means losing something. They think it means giving up parts of themselves. They approach it with fear, with resistance, with a sense of lack. But what if I told you that what you think is you is actually the smallest, most limited version of who you really are? What you're letting go of isn't your true self. It's the prison that's been keeping your true self hidden. What you're releasing isn't your power. It's the illusions that have been blocking your power. What you're surrendering isn't your identity. It's the false identity that's been preventing your authentic self from shining through. And this is just the beginning. What I'm about to reveal next will show you exactly how this quantum process works, why it feels so challenging, and most importantly, how to navigate it with grace and trust. Because once you understand the deeper mechanics of consciousness transformation, you'll see that letting go isn't something you do. It's something you allow. Take a moment right now. Just pause. Feel the energy that's moving through your body as you absorb these words. There's something shifting, isn't there? Something that wasn't there when you first started watching this video. That's not your imagination. That's your quantum field beginning to recalibrate. What you're experiencing right now is what physicists call quantum entanglement with higher possibilities. The information you've just received isn't just entering your conscious mind. It's activating dormant potentials in your DNA, awakening cellular memories of who you truly are beyond the limitations you've accepted as reality. Feel that slight expansion in your chest, that gentle loosening of something that's been held tight for so long. That's the beginning of decoherence. The old patterns starting to lose their grip on your energy field. Your nervous system is literally beginning to attune to a higher frequency version of yourself that exists beyond the boundaries of who you think you are. This is sacred ground you're standing on right now. This moment of recognition, this stirring of possibility, this gentle opening to something greater. Ancient traditions would call this the threshold. Modern neuroscience calls it neuroplasticity activation. But what it really is your soul remembering its true nature. Don't try to understand it with your mind. Let your being absorb it. Let your cells receive it. Let your quantum field integrate it. Because what's happening right now is preparing you for what comes next. The deeper revelations that will show you exactly how to work with this energy of transformation instead of against it. Doctor, Amit Goswami, quantum physicist and consciousness researcher, has spent decades studying what he calls quantum consciousness. His research at the University of Oregon revealed something extraordinary. When we truly let go of our identification with old patterns, our brain waves synchronize with what he terms the quantum self, a higher dimensional aspect of consciousness that exists beyond the limitations of space and time. But this isn't just modern science discovering new territory. The Tibetan Book of the Dead, written over 1,000 years ago, describes in precise detail the stages of consciousness that occur during what they call bardo, the intermediate state between death and rebirth. What's remarkable is that their descriptions of ego dissolution and identity transformation match exactly what neuroscientists are observing in brain scans during deep meditative states. Dr. Eben Alexander, the Harvard neurosurgeon who experienced a near-death experience, describes his journey into what he calls the core, a realm of consciousness where individual identity dissolves into pure awareness. His scientific mind struggled to comprehend what his consciousness had experienced. A state of being where letting go of the self led to an expansion into something infinitely larger. The ancient Sufi mystic Rumi wrote, "You were born with wings. Why prefer to crawl through life?" What he understood, and what quantum consciousness research is now proving, is that our limited identity isn't who we are. It's who we've been conditioned to believe we are. In the Hindu tradition, there's a concept called moksha, liberation from the cycle of suffering. But moksha doesn't come through gaining something new. It comes through releasing the illusion of separateness, the false belief that we are limited, isolated beings. Modern physicists like Carlo Rovelli and Sean Carroll are discovering that at the quantum level, separateness is indeed an illusion. Everything is interconnected. Everything is one unified field of consciousness expressing itself in infinite forms. The Zen master Dogen taught that enlightenment is dropping off body and mind, and not destroying them, but releasing our identification with them as the totality of who we are. Recent studies in consciousness research show that during deep letting go experiences, activity in the brain's default mode network, the area responsible for self-referential thinking, dramatically decreases, while areas associated with unity consciousness become hyperactive. But here's what these traditions and scientists have observed that changes everything about how we approach transformation. The letting go process isn't random. It follows specific laws, specific patterns, specific stages that can be understood and navigated with wisdom. 3 years ago, I was sitting in my car at 2 a.m. outside a 24-hour diner, crying tears that felt like they were coming from the deepest parts of my soul. I had just walked away from everything that defined who I thought I was. My career, my relationship, my entire sense of identity, everything that made me feel secure, successful, and socially acceptable. For months, I had been feeling this strange pull, this inner knowing that the life I was living wasn't aligned with who I was becoming. But every time I considered making a change, my mind would flood me with fears. What will people think? How will you survive? You're throwing your life away. That night in the parking lot, I realized something profound. Those weren't my fears. They were the fears of the old version of myself, the version that needed external validation to feel worthy, the version that believed security came from controlling outcomes, the version that thought my identity was my job, my relationships, my possessions. And in that moment of complete breakdown, something extraordinary happened. I stopped trying to figure out what to do. I stopped trying to manage the situation. I stopped trying to be strong. I just let go completely. I surrendered to the unknown with every cell in my being. What happened next defied everything I thought I knew about how life works. Within weeks, Opportunities began appearing that I couldn't have imagined. People entered my life who were aligned with my authentic path. Resources materialized in ways that seemed almost magical. But the most profound change wasn't external, it was internal. I began to experience life from a completely different frequency. Where I used to feel anxious, I felt excited. Where I used to feel limited, I felt infinite. Where I used to feel separate, I felt deeply connected to something vast and loving. That's when I understood what the mystics meant when they talked about death and rebirth. That's when I realized why every spiritual tradition speaks of surrender as the doorway to liberation. That's when I discovered what quantum physicists mean when they say observation changes reality. The old me didn't evolve into the new me. The old me dissolved, and the new me emerged from an entirely different level of consciousness. This isn't just my story. It's the story of every soul that has ever experienced true transformation. And if you're watching this, it's calling to become your story too. Because what I discovered in that parking lot, what the quantum field revealed to me in that moment of complete surrender, is what I've dedicated my life to sharing. The path isn't about becoming someone new, it's about remembering who you've always been beneath the layers of conditioning and fear. And that remembering, it always begins with letting go. If something in my story awakened a recognition in your soul, if you felt that stirring of possibility in your own quantum field, then you're ready to go deeper into these mysteries. Subscribe to this channel right now, because here we explore the deepest quantum reflections of consciousness itself. We dive into the hidden mechanics of reality that most people never discover. This is where seekers become finders, where possibilities become realities, where the quantum reflex reveals your true nature. Now, how do you know when this quantum shift is beginning to happen in your own life? The universe has a way of communicating with us through signs, through synchronicities, through subtle shifts in the fabric of reality itself. But most people miss these signals because they're looking for dramatic, obvious changes. The first sign is what I call the divine dissatisfaction. You start feeling restless with things that used to satisfy you. Your job might be fine, but it doesn't light you up anymore. Your relationships might be comfortable, but they don't inspire growth. Your daily routines feel empty, even though nothing has technically changed. This isn't depression. It's your soul outgrowing its current container. You might notice that you're starting to question things you never questioned before. Why do I do this job? Why do I live where I live? Why do I spend time with these people? These aren't rebellious thoughts. They're your consciousness preparing for expansion. Another powerful sign is what quantum physicists call reality glitches. You might start noticing number sequences appearing repeatedly: 1111, 333, 555. You might find yourself thinking of someone right before they call or text. You might have dreams that feel more real than your waking life. These aren't coincidences. They're evidence that your consciousness is beginning to operate from a higher dimensional frequency. Pay attention to how your body responds to different people, places, and situations. The old you might have ignored these signals, pushed through discomfort, or rationalized staying in misaligned circumstances. But as you attune to higher frequencies, your body becomes an exquisite guidance system. Expansion feels light, energizing, spacious. Contraction feels heavy, draining, restrictive. You might also notice that old patterns are amplifying before they dissolve. This is what consciousness researcher David Hawkins called the final purgation. Your habitual ways of thinking and reacting might become more intense, more obvious, more uncomfortable. This isn't a sign that you're going backwards. It's a sign that these patterns are losing their unconscious hold on you and becoming visible so they can be released. Another profound sign is the appearance of what I call quantum mentors. People start entering your life who reflect your highest potential back to you. Books fall into your hands at exactly the right moment. Conversations happen that feel divinely orchestrated. Opportunities present themselves that align with your deepest values and authentic gifts. The universe literally begins to reorganize itself around your emerging truth. But here's the sign that confirms you're in the deepest part of the quantum shift. You start experiencing what mystics call the dark night of the soul. Everything that used to give your life meaning feels empty. Everything you used to rely on for security feels unstable. Everything you used to turn to for identity feels foreign. This isn't a breakdown, it's a breakthrough. It's your consciousness expanding beyond the boundaries of the old self. It's the caterpillar dissolving in the cocoon before emerging as a butterfly. It's the most sacred, most necessary part of the transformation process. But here's what I haven't told you yet. Here's the piece of information that changes everything about how you navigate this quantum shift. There's a specific moment in the letting go process where most people turn back. There's a threshold that, once crossed, makes the transformation irreversible. And there's a choice you'll be faced with that will determine whether you complete the shift or remain trapped between two worlds. Ancient alchemists called this the nigredo, the blackening, the stage where everything must dissolve before it can be reborn. Modern neuroscience has identified this as the neural gap, the space between the death of old neural pathways and the birth of new ones. Quantum physicists recognize it as the collapse point, the moment where one reality ends and another begins. But what they don't tell you is that this moment doesn't just happen once. It happens multiple times during the transformation process, each time at a deeper level, each time requiring greater faith, greater trust, greater willingness to step into the unknown. And there's something else. Something that will determine not just whether you successfully navigate this quantum shift, but how quickly you do it, how gracefully you move through it, and how completely you embody the new version of yourself that's waiting to emerge. It has to do with a principle that's hidden in the deepest teachings of every mystical tradition, encoded in the most advanced theories of quantum mechanics, and reflected in the transformation stories of every person who has successfully made this journey from the old self to the authentic self. What is this principle? What is this secret that makes all the difference between those who successfully transform and those who get stuck in the in-between space? What is this key that unlocks the door to your highest timeline? I'm going to reveal it to you in just a moment, but first, you need to understand exactly what happens in your brain, your body, and your energy field when you truly let go. Because once you see the mechanism, once you understand the process, you'll never be afraid of letting go again. When you truly let go of the old self, when you stop trying to maintain and protect and improve the limited version of who you think you are, your nervous system undergoes what neuroscientists call coherent reorganization. Every system in your body begins to function at a higher level of efficiency and harmony. First, your stress response system completely recalibrates. The constant state of fight or flight that comes from trying to control outcomes, protect the ego, and maintain a false sense of security begins to dissolve. Your cortisol levels normalize. Your heart rate variability increases. Your immune system strengthens. But more than that, you begin to experience a profound sense of inner peace that doesn't depend on external circumstances. Remember my story about that night in the parking lot? The months that followed were the most peaceful of my life, not because everything was perfect, but because I had stopped fighting reality. I had stopped exhausting myself trying to force outcomes. I had stopped depleting my energy maintaining an identity that wasn't authentic. Your cognitive function also transforms dramatically. When you're no longer using vast amounts of mental energy to maintain old patterns, defend the ego, and suppress authentic impulses, your mind becomes incredibly clear, creative, and intuitive. Problems that seemed impossible to solve suddenly have obvious solutions. Creative ideas flow effortlessly. Decision-making becomes simple because you're aligned with your truth rather than your fears. Doctor, Bruce Lipton's research on epigenetics shows that when we change our beliefs about who we are, we literally change which genes are expressed in our bodies. The genes associated with stress, aging, and disease become less active. The genes associated with vitality, regeneration, and health become more active. You're not just changing your psychology, you're changing your biology. But the most profound benefit is what spiritual traditions call self-realization, the direct experience of your true nature beyond all conditioning, beyond all limitations, beyond all stories about who you're supposed to be. This isn't a concept you understand intellectually. It's a living reality you experience in every moment. You begin to live from what the mystics call beginner's mind, a state of constant freshness, wonder, and openness to possibilities. You stop approaching life from the perspective of past wounds and future fears. You start responding to each moment from presence, from authenticity, from love. Your relationships transform because you're no longer trying to get anything from other people to complete yourself. You're not looking for validation, security, or identity from external sources. You love from fullness rather than emptiness. You give from abundance rather than scarcity. Just like in my own journey, opportunities begin to appear that are perfectly aligned with your authentic gifts and deepest values. Money flows more easily because you're no longer blocking abundance with limiting beliefs about worthiness. Health improves because you're no longer creating illness through internal conflict. Creativity explodes because you're no longer censoring your authentic expression. But perhaps most importantly, you develop what I call quantum trust, an unshakable faith in the intelligence of life itself. You know at the deepest level that everything is happening for your highest good. You know that the universe is conspiring to help you fulfill your highest potential. You know that letting go isn't about losing anything. It's about gaining everything. Pause for a moment. Really pause. What if everything you've been taught about change, about growth, about becoming your best self has been backwards? What if the path to your highest potential isn't about adding more, doing more, becoming more, but about releasing, surrendering, letting go of everything that isn't authentically you? What if the struggles you've experienced, the resistance you've felt, the seeming impossibility of lasting change, what if all of that has been happening because you've been trying to transform while still holding on to the very identity that needed to be released? Think about your own life for a moment. How much energy are you currently spending trying to manage, control, and improve circumstances while staying essentially the same person? How much effort are you putting into changing your external world while keeping your internal world exactly as it is? What would happen if you stopped? What would happen if you just let go? Not of your responsibilities, not of your care for others, not of your authentic desires and dreams, but of the need to be who you think you're supposed to be. What if the person you're trying so hard to become is actually a smaller, more limited version of who you already are at your core? What if beneath all the conditioning, all the fear, all the stories about limitation and lack, there's a version of you that's already whole, already perfect, already connected to infinite intelligence and love? This isn't just philosophical speculation. This is the direct experience that every mystic has reported. This is the reality that quantum physics is pointing toward. This is the transformation that becomes possible the moment you stop trying to improve the false self and start allowing the true self to emerge. The caterpillar doesn't try to become a better caterpillar. It doesn't go to caterpillar therapy or read caterpillar self-help books or set caterpillar goals. It surrenders so completely to the transformation process that its entire being dissolves and something entirely new emerges, something that was always its potential but could never manifest while it insisted on remaining a caterpillar. What if your struggles, your dissatisfaction, your deep longing for something more aren't signs that something is wrong with you? What if they're signs that something is so right with you that your soul is no longer willing to settle for anything less than your full potential? What if this moment, right now, is the beginning of your own quantum shift? What if reading these words, feeling these possibilities, sensing this truth, is your consciousness preparing for the most beautiful transformation of your life? The only question is, are you ready to trust the process? Are you ready to let go of who you think you are and discover who you've always been? But there's something I need to tell you before we continue. What I've shared with you so far is just the foundation. It's the preparation for something much deeper, much more profound, much more transformative than most people ever imagined possible. There are levels to this quantum shift that go beyond personal transformation. There are dimensions of consciousness that open up when you complete this process of letting go, that connect you to abilities, insights, and experiences that most people consider impossible. I'm talking about what the ancients called siddhi, the natural abilities that emerge when consciousness is no longer limited by identification with the separate self. I'm talking about what modern physicists are discovering about the nature of consciousness and its role in shaping reality at the quantum level. In the videos that follow, I'm going to take you into territory that few people are ready to explore. I'm going to show you what happens when the quantum shift is complete, when you've fully embodied your authentic self, when you're operating from what the mystics call unity consciousness. You're going to discover how consciousness doesn't just observe reality. It literally creates it. You're going to learn about the quantum field techniques that allow you to manifest from a completely different level of being. You're going to understand why synchronicities multiply exponentially, why intuitive abilities amplify dramatically, why your very presence begins to elevate the consciousness of everyone around you. But here's what you need to understand. These aren't special powers that some people have and others don't. These are natural abilities that become available when you're no longer using all your energy to maintain a false identity. They're the birthright of consciousness itself, accessible to anyone who has completed the journey from the ego self to the authentic self. The question is, how far are you willing to go? How deep are you willing to dive? How completely are you willing to let go of everything you think you know about who you are and what's possible? Because what comes next will challenge every assumption you've ever had about the nature of reality, the power of consciousness, and your role as a conscious creator in this quantum universe. As we reach the end of our time together today, I want to leave you with something that the quantum field has been whispering to you throughout this entire video. Something that your soul already knows, but your mind hasn't quite grasped yet. The version of you that started watching this video is not the same as the version of you that's receiving these words right now. Something has shifted, something has awakened, something has been activated at a cellular, energetic, quantum level. You might not feel dramatically different. The change might be so subtle that your conscious mind barely registers it. But your quantum field knows. Your higher self knows. The universe knows. And here's the mystery I want to leave you with. The fact that you found this video, that you stayed until this moment, that these words are resonating in your being right now. None of that is coincidence. Your quantum field has been orchestrating this moment for longer than you realize. There are forces, intelligences, aspects of yourself that exist beyond the boundaries of time and space that have been guiding you toward this recognition, toward this remembering, toward this moment of choosing between the old you and the true you. The question that will echo in your consciousness long after this video ends is this: what if the quantum shift isn't something that's going to happen to you? What if it's something that's already happening through you? What if every moment of dissatisfaction, every stirring of possibility, every recognition of truth has been preparing you for a transformation that's already begun? What if letting go isn't something you do, but something you are? What if the old you was never real in the first place? What if who you think you are is just a temporary dream, and who you really are is the dreamer awakening? The answers to these questions aren't found in more thinking, more analyzing, more figuring out. They're found in the space of pure awareness that opens up when you stop trying to know and start being willing to not know. They're found in the silence between thoughts, in the peace beyond understanding, in the love that exists prior to all experience. This is where the real journey begins. If you've stayed with me until this moment, if you've allowed these words to penetrate not just your mind but your being, then you know that something irreversible has been set in motion. The quantum shift we've been talking about isn't just a concept anymore. It's a living reality that's beginning to unfold in your life. The old you that woke up this morning was operating from one level of consciousness. The you that's receiving these words right now has access to dimensions of possibility that didn't exist in your awareness before. This isn't metaphorical, it's quantum mechanical. But here's what's crucial to understand. This is just the beginning. The activation that's happened during our time together is like planting a seed. What determines whether that seed grows into the full flowering of your authentic self is what you do in the moments, hours, and days that follow. The quantum field is calling you deeper. Your highest timeline is beckoning you forward. The version of yourself that exists beyond all limitations is ready to emerge fully into this reality. This is why I've created a series of videos that will guide you through each stage of this transformation. Each video builds upon the last, taking you deeper into the mystery, higher into the possibilities, further into the truth of who you really are. The next video in this series will reveal the specific techniques that allow you to navigate the quantum shift with grace instead of struggle. You'll discover the ancient practices that modern neuroscience has proven can literally rewire your brain in real time. You'll learn the exact steps that transform letting go from a scary leap into the unknown, into a joyful dance with infinite possibility. Right now on your screen, you're seeing videos that represent different aspects of your quantum transformation. Each one contains keys that unlock different dimensions of your awakening. Each one reveals different pieces of the puzzle of becoming fully yourself. Choose the one that calls to you most strongly. Trust that calling. It's not random. It's your quantum field guiding you toward the next perfect step in your evolution. And as you click on that video, as you continue this journey of discovering your true nature, remember this. You're not just watching videos about transformation. You're actively participating in the evolution of consciousness itself. You're part of a quantum field of beings who are awakening to their true nature, and in doing so, helping to awaken the entire planet. Welcome to the quantum reflex. Welcome to the reflection of your highest self. Welcome to the beginning of the most beautiful journey of your life. The next level of your awakening is just one click away.